What's going on? Justin over here at Las Vegas Harley-Davidson, and welcome to the next video in our little series of Intro to Riding, Intro to Harley-Davidson. Today I want to talk about something that oftentimes we kind of glaze over, and I really want to break down some barriers and some walls that we really kind of put on ourselves, and that is going to be gear and what you should be wearing when you're out riding bikes. So a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on this. There are certain requirements that are meant for MSF courses and getting your license, and then of course there's, what you fall into later on down the road. Now this is particularly a good video for those that are just starting to get into riding, because when you're taking your MSF course, you're given a big list of you need this, you need that, you need whatever, and I really want to kind of shed some light on what you should be looking for and maybe what you should be waiting on. So behind me we have this mannequin that is set up with all of the new gear that is actually particular to the Pan America that just came out, all the adventure riding gear. I picked this one because, in my humble opinion, this guy is a little over the top, right? He has all the best gear, he looks fantastic, he's all matching, and that ultimately is what most of us want to get into. Got a full face helmet, which I will always recommend, and we'll get into that a little bit later. I have a very strong, sturdy textile jacket, along with pants, riding boots, and off to the side we have our gloves, just not on the mannequin itself. Now, all of these things are great. All of these things are very necessary in certain riding applications. But fortunately, Harley-Davidson has been in the game for so long, they have so many different things to kind of get you by, depending on what riding style you want to be doing, depending on what the weather's like, and of course, styling characteristics, what you think is going to look cool. Let's talk about what is absolutely necessary. We have the MSF course here in our back lot. We do that, several times a month. When you are taking that class, they do give you a list of required parts that you need to be having to take the class, right? You need to have a DOT approved helmet, you need to have eye protection, gloves, and that is usually like a leather or textile glove. They're not gonna accept dirt bike or motocross gloves or work gloves. You need to have long pants, closed-toed, over-the-heel shoes. They're not gonna allow you to use, ankle-high chucks or anything like that. They do need to have something that has a sturdier ankle on that, which I'll show you here in a minute. What I really wanted to get at is when you are first starting to ride, whether it's the motorcycle, whether it's the parts, whether it's the gear, you are very quickly going to find out what is going to work for you and what is not. I remember when I first started riding, I thought the 3/4 helmets looked really cool. I still think they're amazing. I went out, I bought the cheapest one I could find because I thought that was what's going to do me good. I actually ordered it off Amazon. I think it was 50 bucks, which I do not recommend anyone to do. I put it on, and the second I got on the highway, because it did not fit my head properly, it was like a parachute on top of my head. It was pulling on me, pulling on my neck, and it just wasn't working, so I immediately had to go get another one. So I wasted money, right? So that is something that I want to kind of inform people on what to do, right? So if you have the opportunity before you go to a class, or even if you've been riding for a while and you want to switch up the gear, please come on by. We have some great people that work in our motor clothes section that can really fit you to what you're needing. On the flip side of that, don't be afraid that you have to get the most expensive gear right off the bat. Because like I said, your style and what's going to work for you is going to change every single time. We can kind of take a little bit of step back here. We have all sorts of different riding jackets, right? So to take the MSF course, they do not require that you have a full-blown jacket. They just require that you wear long sleeves. Obviously, it is a little bit more recommended to have as much protection as possible. If you want to start with something like this, great. I personally have a Harley-Davidson branded leather jacket I've had for several years, and I will have for many, many more. It is tough, it is very warm. But that's only something that I wear in the wintertime because it's too heavy, right? We do have things that are similar to this that are a little bit more perforated, that allow a lot more airflow. Sometimes you get riding down the road, you've been riding for a long time, some people wear a long sleeve t-shirt, some people wear shirts like this. That's what I wear, don't recommend it, but do as I say, not as I do, right? But again, that's one of those things that you get learning. So I guess, I know I've said this already, but I really want to make sure you don't get too caught up in what to get right off the bat. Once you get some miles under your belt, then come back and see us for a second time and we'll get you squared away. Helmets though, helmets is something that I really like to touch on. So back here, we do have a pretty big helmet selection, and we have all sorts of different styles. Everything from 3/4 helmets, full face, modulars, half helmets, all sorts of different things. Motorcycling is cool, right? We do it because we think it's cool. A lot of the stuff looks cool. A lot of stuff makes us feel cool, especially Harley owners. We're a little bit different than, sport bike riders, things like that. A lot of us kind of go for the stuff that may not be the most protective, but we look cool in it, so that is what it is. There are different types of ratings for different helmets, right? There's the DOT, that's gonna be the pretty much minimum requirement. There's Snell, there's all sorts of different ECE, there's different things that are rated differently to get you protected. In states that require helmets, which Nevada is one of those, they're gonna require a minimum of it being a DOT helmet. Every Harley-Davidson helmet out there is gonna be at least a DOT helmet because they're not gonna mess around with novelty helmets, things like that. Do novelty helmets look cool? Absolutely. Are they gonna protect you? No, they're not. They're just gonna kind of look the part. Personally, I always wear a full face helmet. It's actually saved my life on an occasion or two. That is definitely something that I recommend. Now, is it bigger? Is it more cumbersome? Absolutely. Does it get hotter? Absolutely. However, that added protection is invaluable. Harley-Davidson has recently come out with some very, very cool modular helmets, but they are becoming increasingly more popular. Full face helmet, for those that don't know what I'm talking about, this is gonna be what we call a full face helmet. It's gonna, if I put this on my head, it's gonna cover the whole thing. Whereas something along the lines of this guy, this is something we call a half helmet, right? It's gonna sit on top of my head and will still have a lot of exposed area. Something like this, something modular helmet, it's gonna give you the best of everything, right? It is going to have this section that flips up, so if you're at a stoplight, you can kind of flip that up, get some extra airflow in, kind of keep the heat off you, keep the sweat off you. If you're on a big touring bike with a nice cup holder, grab your big gulp and you're ready to go. But it has all sorts of different features to keep you safe and also keep you comfortable. That being said, there's different scenarios where something like a half helmet is just fine. If you come to our dealership and you do not have a motorcycle helmet and you want to test ride one of our bikes, we have test ride helmets available. We're probably going to hand you either a half helmet or a 3/4 helmet, like these Flame guys here, right? Both of these are going to be DOT approved, so they're going to keep you safe as far as the government standards are concerned. But this is definitely something where if you're on a long road trip, you're out in the middle of nowhere, there's not a whole lot of traffic around, and you feel more comfortable, you know, maybe wearing a little bit less safety gear, go with one of these. It's gonna keep you cooler. You're gonna definitely get more of a sensation of being out in the elements on your bike, which is something that most of us are craving all the time. But then obviously, less material covering your head, less protection it gets. So there's definitely pros and cons to everything. Like I mentioned in the very beginning, I really do like 3/4 helmets. This one is cool. It has like this old school, like 70s looking visor. This helmet's actually made by Torque that we carry here at the store. Classic styling. Again, this is a DOT helmet. And this kind of gives you a little bit of in the middle, right? It's gonna come over the lobes of your ears and cover much more of your head than a half helmet is, but not give you the full encompassed version like the full face was. And some people really like that because a lot of people feel really claustrophobic in the full face helmet, which I totally understand. It's just my personal recommendation. Come down to the dealership, talk with our Motorclothes people, and really kind of explain to them on what kind of riding you want to be doing, how much riding you've done in the past, and what you're looking to get out of your gear. Some of us get, and myself included, I get very caught up in specs and pricing and reviews and things like that, and I've spent way more money than I should have buying the wrong stuff because I didn't quite understand. You've probably heard me say this before regarding motorcycles, but everything about motorcycles is true about this. The beautiful thing about riding is whatever works for you is what you're supposed to have. Whether that's a touring bike or a Sportster, or it's a half helmet or a full face helmet, long pants, boots, whatever is gonna work for you. It's gonna keep you protected and keep you comfortable and encourage you to keep riding, right? It's gonna make you feel like excited to get on the bike, then that's what you should be riding. I definitely know a lot of people that don't like to ride because they feel like they have to put on so much stuff and that deters them from riding their bike to work or even just short trips on the weekends. I know guys that ride in flip-flops and shorts, right? So are either of those things the proper thing for you? Maybe, maybe not. So that's just something to kind of think about. Last thing I want to touch on real quick is our boots, which we just moved everything around. They're actually going to be over this way. Footwear is something that you want to be really careful of as well, because it kind of depends on, are you planning on wearing these only when you're riding? Are you planning on wearing these kind of a mixture of riding, walking, kind of leisure? What kind of support you're really looking for? So over something like this, now these are going to be ladies' boots. We have men's, women's, whatever it is that you like. This is something that the people at the MSF course would love to see you wear, right? This is leather, it's got a very sturdy construction, it's got a very solid heel. It's gonna come way above the ankle with some extra padding on top to give you that protection that is required. These are great, they look cool. They're actually rather comfortable. Some people don't like this much of a style going on, right? Some people might want something more like that looks like a Converse or a Vans or something like that. It kind of fits your style a bit more. This is very similar to like a Converse or like Jordans or something similar to that. That's still gonna come over the ankle with very good protection on here, but still give you a lot of comfort in the sole. And you know, a lot of people think that looks really cool. Before you get online and you just drop $500 on a pair of boots, come here, you can try on anything you'd like. You don't see something that you like here, oftentimes we can get you stuff that are on Harley-Davidson's website. But again, you know, just spend some time with our Motorclothes people, get their opinions, and start to form your own. Only purchase one pair of Harley-Davidson boots the whole time I've been riding. I actually bought them for my MSF course when I started riding several years ago, and they are still in almost perfect condition. I love them, they're super cool. I don't wear them a ton because, you know, I mainly wear my tennis shoes, but when I'm riding, they're great to have on. Something you want to kind of think about is what sort of bike you're riding, right? If you're riding something with pegs or floorboards, it might make a little bit of difference in what kind of boot you want to buy. So for the ladies, obviously you guys are a little bit more used to wearing heels than us guys are, but as you can see, this is going to be a little bit of a hotspot area. So if you're riding a bike that has foot pegs, oftentimes that peg is going to sit all the way back here where your heel first starts, which for some of us can be rather uncomfortable. We like to have our pegs a little bit more closer to the balls of our feet, or even just right in the middle so we can hit our levers properly. So if you're riding a bike with floorboards, knock yourself out all day long. It's gonna be great. Now some people like that because it's gonna hold their feet in, so there's not as much worry about if your foot's slipping and sliding around. Just gonna kind of sit there as it should. These are extremely similar to the boots that I first bought. So if you look on the bottom, I personally think these boots look really cool. You can disagree, that's totally fine. I think they're super sweet. On the bottom though, we have our really nice rubber here that makes it comfortable when we're walking around the concrete floors. And then we have this slicker material on here, which, excuse me, I don't know what this is called, but I didn't even think about this when I bought my first pair of boots, right? I, at the time, rode an 883 Sportster that has pegs on it, and I would like to put my foot peg right here at the front, and it's spiral slick, so my foot would just slide right off. It took me a while to learn how to ride with these boots. Once I figured out how to do it, it was really good, but that's not even something I ever even thought about thinking about before I bought that. Oftentimes when guys that are, or ladies that are riding bikes that have foot pegs, like something that has a little bit flatter sole. So you have the freedom to kind of put your foot wherever it is that you want to put it on the bike. Again, Harley-Davidson, freedom, wherever it is that you want to do, you do it. Whatever works for you, do it. Gloves are something that are not something to stress about too much. I personally wear like MX motocross style gloves when I'm riding. They're not gonna let you do that in the MSF course. They're gonna want something a little bit stronger. There's lots of options for that. Some people like, you know, the really hard knuckles on top. Some people like a thin leather. Again, that is gonna be one of those things that you really gotta try on. Everyone has different length fingers, different size palms, things like that. Every glove I've purchased online, the fingers don't fit me right or the wrists are way too big. So that is definitely something I recommend you going and trying on several of those. And I realize that even this video that's supposed to kind of smoothen things out is probably still rather hectic. I'm sure it's still very overwhelming, but that's kind of my point, right? That's why we're making this video. Spend some time, come talk to us, get the opinions of others, and at the end of the day, once you have as much info as you can gather, just make the purchase, because it's gonna change. Whether you like it or not, it's gonna change, right? So find the stuff that's gonna fit your budget the way you want it to fit, that's gonna fit you at least semi-comfortably to get you started, and at least something that you think should last you a long period of time. But always, if you have any questions, come on by, call us, we'll see you soon.